Hey, everybody. Welcome to the first episode of Meta Perspective. And here on this podcast and YouTube channel, we're going to be discussing things like insight, awakening, the nature of reality, consciousness, phenomenology, and kind of everything that goes along with that, which is almost everything. It's pretty all encompassing, but we will get into other subjects as they come about. And you can follow us on Twitter. We're also on YouTube if you're listening to this on the podcast, and currently we're on Spotify. And today for our first guest, we have a really awesome guest, a great guy. His name is Sean McNamara, and he's the author of Renegade Mystic, Signal and Noise, the Telekinesis Training Method. And he has the website mindpossible.com, and he's done a ton of work in the field of, I guess we can call it psychic research or phenomenology. So welcome, Sean.
Thanks, James. It's great to be here. It's really an honor to be on the first episode of your show. Yeah.
You're the perfect guy for it because you have a background in all this stuff, really. So I just wanted to start off, with the basics. First of all, did I pronounce your name correctly?
Close enough. Yeah, it's not an easy name to pronounce. So yeah, McNamara.
How do you say it? Oh, okay.
McNamara.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sean McNamara. Oh,
yeah,
terrible.
I think you had it. Yeah. No, it's all
right. Close enough, right? So again, thank you so much for coming on. And you have written quite a number of books, and I'm impressed because I haven't written one book myself yet. And you have a new book coming out. Mindsight, is that the name of it?
Yeah, it's out. It's available.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's an audio book, ebook, paperback.
Yeah, I'm going to be, for everybody listening, I'm going to be linking those books in the description. But we'll note as we go on through the podcast kind of what relates to what book. So relating to Renegade Mystic, and that's how I first became familiar with you. How did you get into all this stuff? We're talking about like meditation, psychic phenomenon, and kind of everything that you bring to the table nowadays. I mean, you have a pretty diverse background. So how did you get mixed up in this world?
The shortest answer is my fear of death. So when I was a kid, I had appendicitis, and I had a lot of pain for a few days and realized my mortality. And so growing up, I was haunted by that fear of death, and things happened. Like in 2 separate years, I had lumps removed from my chest. And when I was 25, I had heart surgery and other things where I really thought about my own death. And I was raised as a Catholic, but that's a faith-based system. And I'm kind of stubborn, and I like evidence, and I like getting my own answers. And I had always been looking for a way to find my own answers. And out of college, I started thinking about training in meditation. So I joined a local Buddhist community, thinking that maybe the Buddhist path or the path of meditation, and they're not necessarily the same thing, but one way or the other, they could offer me some answers to what happens when we die. Like if some part of me continues after my physical body is gone, if I could find that out for sure, that would relieve my fear of death. So that got me interested in becoming a spiritual person to find those answers. And after many years of training with a couple of different teachers and groups, I realized that I just learned how to be a really good Buddhist. Maybe not a good Buddhist, but I was really good at following that path. It's a very well-defined path. And the path that I follow is related to Vajrayana Buddhism or Tibetan Buddhism. Under a couple different teachers.
Did you start off with that to begin with, or did you end up there for your main?
No, I started off with that. I mean, there's a set of training where you're not doing tantric meditations at the beginning, but you train and work your way up to that level. But after a few years and having some really bad experiences and realizing a lot of spirituality in the United States is just a business venture, it's just selling these secret meditation practices, I got turned off, and I got hurt by it, actually by a couple of teachers. And I was really frustrated. And I realized through my frustration that even though those paths I'm not going to equate the path with the teachers. They're just human beings doing what some humans do. But the paths were good, but they didn't answer my question. And I needed to find my own way. And I remembered learning about out-of-body experiences when I was a teenager, because I'd found Robert Monroe's book when I was like 16 or something. And I tried it when I was a kid, when I was a teenager, but I didn't get anywhere with it. But I thought, maybe I'll try it now. I've been meditating all these years. Maybe I can apply my meditative strength to some technique for having an out-of-body experience. And I found William Buhlman's books, which was great, because since Robert Monroe wrote his first book, Journeys Out of the Body, other books have been written which really explained the techniques much better, in my opinion, and gave a variety of techniques to try. So I trained myself for months to have an out-of-body experience. And then I had my first one and my second, but it was just the first one. And it was only a partial separation. When I returned to my body, I was free of my fear of death. And in this, I knew beyond the shadow of a doubt that some part of me is non-physical. And when my body is gone, that part of me will linger on in some way. And I know it's not all of me. We're composite beings. There's no single self. We're brain and consciousness. When the brain is gone, some part of me will be gone too, but some other part of me will linger. And of course, there's so much evidence now through mediumship that's been looked at scientifically, and ESP and all these other psychic abilities that show that there is something that occurs beyond the boundaries of the flesh. Something extends beyond, that has information and personality to it. So the out-of-body experience was my gateway in to all the other things that I've experienced. Because since then, finding my freedom from being tied to any religion. So I don't see myself as belonging to any religion now, but I see myself as a spiritual person. But I mostly feel myself free to experiment and to go looking in certain areas that other people don't want to look, and to try things out. I used to be worried about getting enlightened or something, that if I do that, then that'll save me. I'm not worried about it. I'm definitely nowhere close to enlightenment, but I'm not even sure if it really exists. One single, this is what enlightenment is. I know traditions hold it up as the golden jewel at the end of the path, but I'm not sure, because different traditions describe that experience differently, which is an issue. Then it's a subjective phenomenon. For me, after experiencing everything I've experienced, where I am right now, put a little caveat there, like subject to change. Where I am right now is that being a human being is an immense opportunity for learning and growth. And that might be the golden jewel at the end of the path, to be born in a human body with the limitations that we have. That's such a precious opportunity. I can learn so much that way. And in a sense, exploring the psychic phenomena, especially the out-of-body experience, it's sort of like finding the answers at the back of the book. Like, by the way, this isn't the end of the road. Like, there's so much more than this. Don't worry about it. And I actually stopped training in the out-of-body experience because, well, one specific reason was to do the training, I'd have to leave my bed at night to go do training similar to lucid dreaming training. And I realized I only have so many years with my wife where I could lay in bed with her and experience what that is, to lay in bed with our bodies, even just sleeping, but to experience that. And here I am leaving the bed to go train, to go out of my body, to go experience something else. That something else will be there when I'm dead. So why don't I spend this time being alive and experiencing life in my body? But I can't stop myself from being curious about those other realms, and being curious about psychic phenomena, and being curious about how that can affect our life in the body, because we are connected, whether we're being psychic or not. We're just little radio towers walking around the planet Earth, and we are in tune, even though we might not consciously know it. Some deeper part of us is sensitive, very sensitive, and we affect each other. And I think psychic experiences or psychic training can enhance a person's creativity, can enhance their sense of well-being, can increase a sense of meaning, of control in a certain sense. And these are all psychologically healthy aspects for people to have. Of course, someone can go off the deep end with it too, but generally, if someone is well grounded, there are a lot of opportunities for enriching a person's life through exploring consciousness this way.
Yeah, you had a really interesting, I don't know if it was a subtitle or something in there on Mystic Renegade that, it said something about exploring consciousness. And I thought that was fantastic because I see it the same way. It's like what, greater thing can you do while you're here, right? But about the out-of-body experience, when, before you started training, did you ever have one sporadically, like randomly?
Well, so there was something that happened when I was on a meditation retreat that, looking back on it, it may have been an out-of-body experience. And so on these retreats that I had been part of, we meditate for 8 to 10 hours a day. So you're already in an altered state of awareness. And I was taking a nap in the middle of the afternoon during a rest period. And suddenly I became conscious while my body was asleep. So there's that mind awake, body asleep, which is classical requirement for the OBE. And I started feeling the energy flowing up my spine, up and down, up and down. And I felt my sense of self curling up as if I was like one of those little roly-poly bugs. Like I was curling up, but that curling meant I was curling away from my spine and curling away from my physical body. Like my consciousness or my sense of self was rolling out into itself away from the body. Well, this is while my physical body is laying down on the mattress. And actually what followed after that, I just felt the sensation and the curling for, it could have been moments or minutes, I'm not sure. When I returned to the body and became physically awake, I spent a few hours in what I would call a state of cessation, actually, where my mind was very clear, but it was free of any of that extra thinking we do all the time, and fear, hesitation, doubt, confusion, opinions. All that stuff was gone. And it was like this profound level of peace. And I think it's described in different traditions, that kind of experience. And I think some people will go looking for that in their meditation. It's wonderful that by that evening, the wheels started turning again. And I tried to keep them from turning. Like, oh, I wanted to hang on to this experience because I really thought, is this the thing we've all been looking for? But even with that thought, like it was an indicator that my mind was starting to repeat its patterns again, which is fine. I mean, it's like, okay. So I had a taste of something, and it was in connection with that experience that I might call an out-of-body experience. The issue with the out-of-body experience is it can happen in so many different ways. Different people experience it differently, but you can't call it any one thing. Some people experience, and I've experienced many different ways, but where your body kind of floats away, you float away from your body and go somewhere. I've had it where my feet lift up first and I separate and then I go down backwards through the floor.
Oh man, yeah.
Or where there's no sense of traveling away, you're just instantly conscious in a different environment completely.
Yeah.
And in the beginning, I had the vibrations, the feeling of the vibrations when I would separate, that more and more as I trained, those weren't necessary, or they were very subtle and very gentle. And then there are auditory hallucinations and all the hypnagogic phenomena that can occur during that phase of awareness. So it's a multifaceted experience, which is great, because if it was just one thing, someone would easily turn it into a religion, a dogma. This is the right way. There is no wrong way. Earlier, you mentioned the subtitle to my book, and the subtitle is The Pursuit of Spiritual Freedom through Consciousness Exploration. And the reason I wrote that was because I realized when I was tied to a teacher or a tradition, their main job is to keep their practices and their secrets or their teachings in a box so that it remains unchanged and can be passed through time. Like, these are the instructions, don't change them, don't mess around. And if anyone doesn't follow them, kick them out. Like, they're not part of this. And my message in that book, the title is Renegade Mystic, but I'm not describing me. I'm describing anyone out there who is bold enough to explore in their own way, find their own answers, and contradict any of the rules and regulations a person would want to put on you to control you. Because once you know that all you need is a little bit of information and some effort and time, you can train yourself to experience whatever you want to, then you're free. Then you are a free person, which I think is important more than ever when everyone's trying to control each other.
Yeah. For me, I'm one of those, I don't know what you would want to call. I was fortunate enough to have like a bunch of different experiences, kind of by chance, right? Sporadically, randomly. So even when I was younger, I remember the first time that I had something of an OBE. It was the first sleepover I ever had. I was at a friend's house, and it was in first grade. Or this is the first one that I remember vividly in this sense as an OBE. And I remember I'm falling asleep, and the next thing I remember is floating up above my body, and like I'm just watching it, and I'm like, okay. And then for some reason it took like a few seconds, and then I'm like, holy crap, that's me. And then boom, I'm in my body, and I was startled out of my sleep. But it was very lucid, it was very vivid, and it never left me. So even at a very young age, I was cognizant of these different things, and I never undermined it. And having experienced that, I never was like, oh, that was just a dream, because it was as real as my waking reality. And again, I was so conscious, and to even say, holy crap, that's me, and then bam, back in the body. And just kind of like another aside, it was actually, you've heard of Yoga Nidra?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So the first time I heard about it, it was maybe like 8 or 9 years ago that I really heard about it. And this meditation teacher did a video on it. So I'm like, oh, that's really cool. I watched the video like 2 or 3 times, and then I went to sleep, and I had the weirdest, I don't know how to define this experience, I guess, but I went to sleep, and then just, I guess, maybe like moments after I fell asleep, my awareness was just this point of awareness, almost like, I guess you could say, above my third eye, above my head, and I was literally just there, and I was conscious, and it was almost kind of like a time lapse, but I was aware the whole time, and I was just looking as like in the room, like just as if I was sitting up and looking straight forward, and it just went on the whole time, and I'm conscious. But then I woke up, and it was exactly just, I was actually well rested, but I was awake the whole time. It was really, really bizarre, to say the least. But that's kind of just like a side story where I can relate to the OBE stuff. I had other really interesting OBE stuff, but that's another story. But getting to the actual Tibetan practices you did. So did they in that school of Tibetan meditation, did they ever talk about the powers or OBEs or anything like that, or not at all?
Not really. And there's this attitude about them. I mean, there was some discussion about it, and a lot of casual discussion, like not directly from the teacher, but from senior teachers or other people in the 2 different groups I was part of. And it was always like, shut down. Like, that's just a distraction, or it'll keep you from the path you're supposed to go on, or don't focus on that, which I found ironic and insulting, actually, because one of the teachers would sometimes hint that he had certain abilities, where his family members would talk about him as if his family members had certain abilities, which automatically sort of put them on a pedestal, and everyone's like, ooh, wow, they can do these things. And meanwhile, everyone else is told, don't focus on that, don't do that. So it's like this separation of, like, since these people are in a position of power, and these traditions, some of them are very hierarchical and very, it's run by men. very traditional. And so it's a way of like keeping power and control in an organization. And the other one, same thing, like this person is recognized as a reincarnation of someone else, and then he can remember texts, maybe, it's questionable, but all these hints that he has certain abilities that no one else should really focus on that because he's special and everyone else is just regular.
Yeah.
And that's the problem with some of these traditions. The teacher is regarded like the guru. You're supposed to see the guru as a perfect being, as a Buddha. If you can see your guru as a Buddha, then you will receive the blessings of a Buddha. This is what they say.
Yeah.
If you see them as an ordinary person, you won't receive any blessings. And it's almost it is a requirement for the guru's blessing to wake, for you to become enlightened, for you to do certain practices. You need someone else's permission and all these rituals. And what happens when you realize that your teacher is actually a narcissistic person, right? They have a personality disorder, or if someone else, they're really just hurting other people. And, you know, it's stuff. One of these teachers, I won't say who it is, but eventually things came out from a lot of witnesses, a lot of victims, a lot of hurt had happened. So how do you continue seeing someone like that in an elevated position, like they're enlightened, that they're doing all these things that would really indicate a personality disorder, or just what humans do when they're in a position of power is they want more power, and they'll take it psychologically, financially, sexually, in other ways.
Yeah.
I wonder if I just went off track a little bit.
No, it's all right. No, it's all good, man.